First of all, I just want to wish everybody happy holidays. Hope everything is going great. Don't get too stressed out there. Just remember what it's supposed to be about. It's about family and being together, which is kind of what leads me right into what I wanted to talk about today. It was something that we had been talking about around the office, and quite a few of the people that I work with were just kind of like, hey, is Deuce coming home for the holidays? And I was kind of like, well, no, he's not. And, and it kind of made me become a little sad. And then it made me think about, my wife at home, how this is going to be his first Christmas where he's not home. His freshman year, they didn't go to a bowl game. So he was here. He was able to come home and spend Christmas with the family. But now this year, with how well they've played and how well they're doing, they're going to a bowl game, which will be played on the 29th of December, which means more than likely he'll leave, or I say he'll leave, but the team will leave on the 20th, and it'll be down there until about the 29th, 30th, and then they'll come back. So they'll be gone for, Christmas. And for me, I've gotten kind of used to that. With having a military background, I remember quite often my mom would be deployed. She was in Iraq. She's been to Saudi Arabia. So there were times where my mom was deployed for Christmas. So actually being together on Christmas Day became kind of the norm. And we would celebrate before Christmas, or if we knew my mom was leaving on the 17th, we'd all get together on the 15th and just kind of have a celebration. And we would get together and celebrate family and friends and togetherness. So for me, Christmas was not always about the actual date as much as it was about the family being together. And that's kind of what it's become for me. So, as I went through college, and I can speak for a lot of these players, you're not home for Christmas. I was in school for 5 years, redshirted my first year in '94, and I went to 4 straight bowl games. And even with the redshirt year, we went to a bowl game. So that's 5 straight bowl games. We were never home for Christmas. Our first bowl game that I went to as a redshirt freshman, which was in 1994, was in El Paso, Texas, December 29th against the Texas Longhorns. And that was the first time I had been away from home for Christmas, as far as me being the person who's, everybody's like, wow, is Russell going to be home for Christmas? And then, at first I'm like, no, I'm not going to be home. I was so excited. And as you get down there, and it's fun and it's so exciting, and it's the first time you've ever been to a place like this, and you've ever been to Texas or Miami or California, wherever your bowl game's being held, you get there in excitement. But as the days start to wind down and you get closer to Christmas, you do start to become a little sad. You do start to miss home. You do miss the family. You miss the stories, and you miss the food, and you miss the camaraderie and just being together with your family. So you find yourself, as you get closer to the holidays, when you're away for a bowl game, you find yourself, as you get closer to actual Christmas Day, you find yourself getting a little more and more sad, even though you're there with your brothers and you're there with your coaches. That's not your real family. That's the family you've kind of adopted over the years. That's the family that has come to love you over the last 3 or 4 years, but it's still not the same as being home with your mom and your dad. So for those kids who it's their first time being away from home, I guess my first thing I would want to say, having been through it and then also having to go through it as a parent, you have to understand that this is kind of a part of what you've signed up for. That's a difficult thing to say to you and be like, it's the first time being away from home and I'm so sad. And you will be, but just know that your family's there supporting you. They're going to be there. They're going to call you, and just, you have the phone, you have access to social media. So you're not completely cut off from your family, but it is going to be a stressful time, because for many kids, this will be their first time being away from home, for Christmas. And it's tough on kids. It's one of those things where you try to pretend like it's not a big deal, but it very much is a big deal, because it's your first time being away from home. But after that, I think after the Sun Bowl, it became one of those things that you got used to it. It was part of what you did. It was, hey, I'm going to be away for Christmas. I'm going to call. I'm going to talk to my mom. I'm going to do all these things. So it became like a normal routine for us. And it wasn't so bad, but I know for my mom, it was very disappointing because every year she would be like, well, are you going to be home? Or, when are you guys going to be? When are you guys leaving to go down to your bowl game? And I would always tell her when. And she would it was this sad voice. And it kind of takes me back, or it reminds me of what my wife is going through now with not having Deuce home for the first time this year. Last year he wasn't redshirted, but the team didn't go to a bowl game. So he was home and everybody was so happy. My daughter was home. But now it's bittersweet because my wife is kind of moping around the house like, man, he's not going to be home. And, his birthday is December 30th. And I would love to have him home. And I have to constantly remind her that as much as it's sad and you miss him, you got to understand how exciting it is for a kid to be in their first bowl game, to be away from home. As much as it is, he's nervous and he's scared. We as parents have to support them and let them know that it's okay. Have fun. We're going to miss you, but we love you at the same time. And so you have to let them know that they have that support system because it's going to be very hard on these kids. I mean, they're going to get out there and, like I said, the first couple of days, they're going to love life. They're in Dallas, Texas, or they're in Miami, or they're in Jacksonville, and it's a brand new city and it's the nightlife and there's all this, everything is set up for them. But as they get closer to the holidays, they start to realize how important those things are. And they're going to want to reach out to their family. They're going to want you to be there for them and call them and to be a part of that. But I do think that it's very stressful for kids because you're trying to balance what you have to do for your bowl game, which is continuing to get better. You have to work, you're learning your plays, you have to learn about your new opponent. You have to do all these things, but on top of that, you're trying to balance. I have my family at home, my mom, my dad, my sister, they're all at home and they're like, gosh, we miss him. And we really wish we could talk to him. So I think that it has to be a good balance between what you as a player are going through, and you have to understand that your family is there for you and they want to be a part of this and they want to help you through all this. But we as family members also have to understand that we can't put too much stress on the kids. We can't put too much stress on them from the standpoint of, you didn't call me and I'd really like to hear from you. And, because that just adds to what they're already going through. There's already that level of, man, I'm not home for the holidays and I know my mom misses me. I know my dad misses me. And that's something that they have to deal with all the time. So I think we as parents have to understand and teach our kids that even though you're not here, we're still supporting you. And the holiday is not just about, oh, you have to be here on the 25th. Hopefully we can get him home a little early and celebrate. But, I think with talking to him that they're going to be back on his birthday, which is the 30th, and then he's going to be home from the 30th till about January the 9th. So that'll be our Christmas, and that'll be when we can celebrate as a family. Because for me, it has become kind of normal and part of what we do as athletes, and coming from a military background, like I was saying earlier, having a mother who was deployed for holidays and you had to talk to people on the phone, for me it has become a way of life. But for my wife, who's not really used to that military and people being deployed, and, when we dated in college, it was kind of like, oh, he's gone, but we weren't a family and she was home with her family. But now to have her baby boy not be home for Christmas, you can only talk to him on the phone. It's starting to get to her, and I could tell as we get closer and closer to the holidays, it's just she gets a little more and more sad, and she talks about him a little more and be like, oh, I really wish he was home. And then especially having his birthday on the 30th, which is 5 days right after Christmas, it just makes her that much more sad because now it's like not only is he missing Christmas, but now he's missing his birthday. But I guess I'm saying all this and I'm talking about these things, and I want you to just understand what these young kids are going through. they go out here and they work hard all season long, and then they do these things, and they win the games to get to where they need to get to. And then once they get to a bowl game, it's like the other side of it is like, oh my God, I'm not going to be home for Christmas. And they'll pretend like it's not a big deal, like, oh, no big deal. And I'm not worried about Christmas, but it is a big deal to them, because for many of these kids, it's their first time being away from home. It's their first time being away from the holidays. So we have to help them as parents. We have to be there to help guide them and pick up on their little triggers and their signals when they kind of call, hey, what's going on? You know, they're already stressed. They're already worried about, is mom and dad okay? You know, is my mom is she going to be crying? So let them know when you talk to them that it is okay, that I'm fine, I miss you, but I know I want you to go have fun. And no matter where you are, we're a family, and we're always going to celebrate together. And even if you can't be there, just know you're always a part of what we're doing. So I think that we as family members, we can help our kids and help our young athletes by letting them know that we're here to support you. And the kids and the young athletes know that it's okay to call and say, I miss you, I love you. You know, I wish I was home for Christmas, but I'm having so much fun, because we love to hear those stories. As sad as we are, and as much as we're like, gosh, I wish they were home, we love to get those stories when you call home and you talk to us and you tell us how excited you are and how much fun you're having, because that makes us feel like, okay, they're not sad. They don't miss us as much as we think they do. You know, and just to kind of give you a little story as I'm talking about all this, I remember the last bowl game that we went to at UNC was the Las Vegas Bowl. And we played, I think it was San Diego. It was December 19th or 20th. And it was our first time back home for Christmas. But the story that I have to tell was just to kind of let you know the kind of fun that these boys are going to have when they go down there. We were in Las Vegas, and we had just beat San Diego, and we were having a great time. This was my senior year, so I was getting ready for the NFL afterwards. So we rented a little limo. I say rented a little limo. We didn't rent a limo, but we had this limo, and we had a couple guys who were good at shenanigans. And we got out the limo and we went up to a couple of clubs, and they pretended to be security, and the rest of us pretended to be NFL football players. And we would go inside the clubs and we would party for like 20 or 30 minutes. And then we would tell them like, oh, you know, we're going to go to another club. We'll be back. And so I remember that's one of many stories, but that story stood out to me the most, because after that bowl game, we were so excited. We were all, you know, we were seniors. We were about to go into the NFL. You know, college was behind us. We weren't amateurs anymore. So it was like, hey, let's go out and party. But you really don't have the money to party in Vegas. So a couple guys pretended to be security, and we had a limo, and we would pull up. And as long as you have the aura about you and you have the machismo that says, you know, we belong here, you know, you can get in. But I just remember that's one story that I can actually tell where we went to a couple of clubs that night, and just on the strength of, well, these big guys, they have on like suits that say Gator Bowl, or they have Las Vegas Bowl. Like it was just enough to where people were like, okay, it's believable. Come on in, right this way, guys. And right about the time when we knew we didn't have enough money, we were like, oh, you know what? This is a real good place. We're going to go check out a couple of other spots, and we'll be back. So I just remember that story. But that's just to tell you that even though you're going to miss your kids, and even though kids, you're going to miss your parents, you're going to have a great time, and a lot of great memories are going to be made while you're at these bowl games. It's just thinking about some of the bowl games that I attended. I wish I had been more invested into the bowl game to experience what was there. When we went to the Sun Bowl in El Paso, we went to the Gator Bowl twice in Jacksonville, and it was more business. It was all about business. We're going here. We have to attend these meetings. We have to go to practice. We have to do this. We have to do that. And I did not give myself the opportunity to have a good time. I was all worried about, we have to win this game, which is very important. But once those games are over and done with, once you get to be my age, you start looking back, and you realize, like, man, I can look up these bowl games, but I don't really remember what happened, because I was so worried about, okay, we got to get to meetings. We got to do this. We got all these things that are so technical that you forget to have fun. And I think that's the biggest piece of advice that I've been giving my son throughout his 2 years that he's been in college is to enjoy the moment, to enjoy the experience, because you never know when you're going to be back there again. So, with him going to this bowl game, I've talked to him and discussed how important it is just to have a good time. Like we stress about these bowl games when we're there and we're playing in them. And I told that Vegas story just to kind of be like, you need to have fun while you're there too. Don't do anything to break the law. Don't get yourself in trouble. But this is an opportunity that may not ever come back again. So you need to enjoy it while you're there. So I just kind of wanted to talk about that with the Christmas holiday coming up, and just to kind of give you a little insight into what's going on with these kids and possibly what they're thinking and how families are feeling about this time too, when some families, this is going to be their first year away from their kids for the holidays. So I guess my parting piece of advice would be, parents, enjoy it, love them, call them, let them know you're there to support them, but don't be too stressful. And the athletes, call your parents. Tell them you love them. Tell them you miss them. Tell them Merry Christmas. Tell them Happy Holidays, whatever it may be. Because I think the more that we work together, the easier it is for everyone. So once again, I just want to wish everybody Happy Holidays and Happy New Year. Thanks for tuning in to The Route. Don't forget to subscribe and connect with us on socials for exclusive updates. We'll see you next week.